When the morning is still dark and the world has not yet opened its eyes, that is when the path of the warrior truly begins. The body protests, the mind seeks comfort, and the spirit is tempted to return to warmth and sleep. But I have learned that the first battle of the day is not fought against any opponent outside, it is fought within. The one who wakes with purpose while others sleep in comfort has already stepped ahead before the sun has even risen. Discipline is not loud, it does not shout, and it does not reward immediately. It is quiet, uncomfortable, and unseen, yet it becomes the core of unbreakable strength. There were many moments in my life when ease was available to me, when I could have chosen warmth over wind, softness over stone, distraction over training. But every time I chose comfort, I felt my spirit grow dull, my awareness fade, my edge weaken. So I turned away from comfort like one turns away from poison. I embraced the cold mornings, the hunger, the silence, the solitude, because I knew that growth does not come from softness. It comes from friction, from struggle, from demanding more of oneself than the world expects. Most people wait for motivation before they act. They wait for energy, inspiration, or the right feeling. But the warrior does not wait. The warrior moves first and the feeling follows. The body learns obedience to the will and the will becomes stronger than fatigue. Discipline is forged by doing what must be done, especially when you do not want to do it. When you stand up while every part of you tells you to remain still, when you continue walking while your legs tremble, when you train even as your muscles burn, that is when your spirit learns that it commands the body, not the other way around. In the early hours when the world is quiet, there is no applause, no approval, no recognition. There is only breath, movement, thought, and repetition. These small, unseen moments are more powerful than the grand displays others admire. Strength is built in silence. Skill is shaped in loneliness. Power is formed in the spaces where nobody witnesses your effort. When others wake to chase comfort, you have already conquered resistance and sharpened your mind. Discipline is not cruelty toward oneself. It is loyalty toward one's destiny. To refuse laziness is to honor the life you carry. Every choice you make shapes your character. When you choose ease, you surrender your direction to weakness. When you choose the hard path, you claim ownership of your spirit. The warrior understands that the road to mastery is paved with decisions that most people run away from. Every step taken against comfort becomes a brick in the fortress of the mind. There will be days when weariness feels heavier than steel, when doubt whispers that effort is meaningless, when failure seems to mock your persistence. Those are the days that define you. Anyone can continue when everything feels easy. Only a disciplined spirit continues when nothing feels supportive. That is where separation begins, between those who dream and those who act, between those who wish and those who become. The difference is not talent, nor luck, nor circumstance. The difference is the ability to rise when the spirit is tired and still say, "I will continue." Pain is not an enemy along this path, it is a messenger. It tells you where you are weak, where you must grow, where your limits are waiting to be broken. If you run from pain, you remain small. If you face it, you expand. The warrior does not seek suffering for vanity or pride, but accepts it as the price of transformation. The more you expose yourself to challenge, the less the world can intimidate you. Hardship becomes familiar and fear loses its grip. The purpose of ruthless discipline is not to punish the body, but to free the mind. A disciplined mind is not distracted by doubt or controlled by impulse. It does not crumble under pressure or lose focus in chaos. It moves with clarity. It acts with intention. It knows when to strike, when to wait, when to advance, and when to remain still. The warrior who trains in discipline each morning carries this calm into every battle life presents. There will always be voices around you that encourage comfort, that tell you to slow down, to rest more than necessary, to avoid difficulty, to follow the crowd. But those who live like the crowd will die with the same regrets. The warrior walks a different road, one that is narrow, demanding, and lonely, yet it leads to mastery, while the wider, easier path leads only to mediocrity. To choose discipline is to separate yourself from the many and commit yourself to becoming something rare. Each dawn presents a choice: remain asleep alongside the world, or rise and sharpen your spirit while silence still fills the air. Over time, these choices carve your character deeper than any sword can carve stone. The one who wakes with discipline each day does not simply become stronger in the body, they become unshakable in the soul. And when discipline and purpose unite, comfort loses all power over you, and nothing in this world can bend your spirit again. When a man chooses the path of mastery, he must learn to stand alone within his own mind, because the greatest battles he will ever fight are not against opponents of flesh and blood, but against the doubts, fears, and weaknesses that rise quietly from within. There is a voice inside that urges retreat when the road grows steep, that seeks distraction when discipline demands focus, that whispers of ease when effort becomes painful. I have come to understand that if that inner voice remains unchallenged, no enemy in the world needs to defeat you, you will already have surrendered before the struggle even begins. So I walked into silence, into solitude, into the depths of discomfort, to confront that inner resistance again and again until my spirit no longer bowed to it. In moments of solitude, when no eyes were watching, I could hear clearly the conflict between desire and discipline. The body longed for relief, the heart sought comfort, the mind chased safety, yet the spirit demanded growth. It is in such moments that a warrior must decide who he truly serves. If he obeys comfort, he becomes weak. If he obeys fear, he becomes trapped. If he obeys the spirit, he becomes unstoppable. So I trained my mind the way one sharpens a blade, slowly, deliberately, through repetition, pressure, and relentless honesty. I did not bargain with weakness, and I did not negotiate with hesitation. I let discomfort polish my spirit until doubt no longer ruled my actions. There were days when the world felt heavy and my will seemed small, when failure echoed loudly in memory and the future appeared distant and uncertain. In such times, many seek distraction to escape the weight of their own thoughts. But a warrior does not run from his inner world, he enters it. He studies his fears the way he studies his opponent's stance, calmly and without panic. He asks himself why he hesitates, why he falls, why he repeats the same mistakes. Slowly, through this internal discipline, fear loses its power because it is no longer mysterious. What you understand cannot control you. What you confront cannot silently poison your spirit. To cultivate such mental strength, one must abandon attachment to comfort and approval. The world rewards appearances, but mastery grows in hidden places. When the mind grows restless and seeks entertainment, I withdraw into focus. When emotions rise like storms, I return to breath and awareness. When temptation appears in the form of ease, I remind myself that comfort steals more from the warrior than struggle ever could. Discipline of the mind means choosing purpose over impulse again and again until it becomes your natural state. The more you practice this, the less outside circumstances can disturb you because your strength no longer depends on anything beyond your own spirit. I have seen many men fall, not because they lacked skill or strength, but because they lacked mastery over themselves. They were sharp in talent but dull in spirit, fast in action yet weak in conviction. In battle, such men break when pressure rises, for they have built their confidence on fragile ground. True strength cannot be borrowed from praise or reputation. It must be forged in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when you stand face to face with your own limitations and refuse to step backward. Each time you choose discipline over weakness, your spirit grows heavier than doubt and lighter than fear. Mental discipline does not mean shutting out emotion or becoming stone. It means allowing emotion to exist without allowing it to control your direction. The warrior feels fear but moves forward anyway. He feels exhaustion but finishes the path he has chosen. He feels uncertainty but refuses to abandon his commitment. This is not coldness, it is clarity. It is the understanding that emotions are waves and the spirit is the ocean. Let the waves rise and fall, remain anchored in purpose. Over time, resistance becomes familiar, struggle becomes natural, and the mind settles into a deep calm even in chaos. There were times when loneliness surrounded my journey, when others could not understand why I walked a path so harsh and demanding. But solitude is not emptiness, it is a furnace. It burns away illusion and reveals what remains when everything unnecessary is stripped away. In solitude, you discover whether your discipline is real or merely a performance for the world. If you can remain unwavering when there is no reward, no audience, no reassurance, then your strength belongs truly to you. And when you return to the world, you carry a quiet confidence that no one can grant and no one can take away. Mind that has faced hardship without retreat becomes like a mountain. Winds may howl, storms may break upon its surface, yet it does not move. This is the power of inner discipline, not loud, not boastful, but steady and enduring. It allows you to act with precision under pressure, to remain composed when others panic, to choose wisely when others crumble. The warrior who has conquered himself no longer fears defeat, because he understands that the greatest victory has already been won within. Each day, the battle repeats. The mind will always search for easier roads, for softer choices, for reasons to delay. But the path to mastery is walked step by step through conscious decisions made in the quiet corners of life. When you rise despite fatigue, when you persist despite doubt, when you choose discipline even when no one will ever know, in those unseen moments, power gathers within you. And when the time comes to face the world, you will stand unshaken, because nothing outside you is stronger than what you have built within. There comes a time on the path when a warrior must learn to separate what is truly necessary from what is merely comfortable, to let go of attachments that slow the spirit and cloud the mind. The world teaches people to cling to possessions, to praise, to routine, to the illusion of safety, but the path of mastery demands the opposite. I learned that when the mind becomes dependent on comfort, it weakens the will. When a man builds his identity on things outside himself, he becomes fragile, because anything that can be taken from him also has the power to control him. So I chose simplicity not as deprivation but as freedom, because only in simplicity can the spirit move without chains. There were seasons of life when I walked with nothing but my weapons and my knowledge, when I slept beneath open skies and ate only what the moment provided. Many would call this hardship, but I understood it as purification. When you strip away distractions, what remains is truth about your fears, your strength, your purpose, your discipline. Without luxury to hide behind, I faced myself clearly. I discovered how little is truly required to live and how much unnecessary weight people carry in their minds and hearts. The warrior who carries too much burdens himself before battle begins. The one who travels light moves quickly, adapts easily, and remains unshaken when circumstances change. Attachment breeds hesitation. When a man clings to comfort, he fears risk. When he clings to reputation, he fears failure. When he clings to relationships built on dependency rather than respect, he fears standing alone. All fear is rooted in attachment, so I cut away from anything that tried to own my spirit. There were friendships I outgrew, places I walked away from, comforts I refused, not because I despised them, but because I refused to be ruled by them. A warrior must belong to his purpose, not to his comforts. If something weakens your will, even if it feels pleasant, it is an enemy disguised as comfort. Discipline requires sacrifice. There were mornings when my body ached, when the air was cold and my breath came like smoke, when every part of me sought rest, yet I rose. In those moments I reminded myself that comfort does not make a man stronger, challenge does. I allowed myself no indulgence that softened my spirit. Hunger sharpened my awareness, fatigue strengthened my endurance, solitude refined my focus. By choosing discomfort willingly, I removed fear from it. What you walk toward bravely loses power over you. The warrior who is trained in hardship is never surprised by pain and therefore never defeated by it. People often believe that strength is built in moments of action, but strength is actually formed in the quiet choices no one sees. When you refuse ease, when you turn away from distractions, when you sacrifice pleasure for growth, those silent decisions carve the spirit into something unbreakable. I did not seek admiration for this discipline. I trained when there was no audience. When the world slept and the night was long. It is in those unseen hours that true power grows. A man who relies on external validation for discipline will crumble the moment applause fades. A man who is disciplined for his own purpose remains steady because his fire burns from within. There were moments when temptation whispered of an easier path, when I could have chosen comfort over progress, security over challenge, recognition over integrity. But each choice shapes the spirit. Every time you choose weakness, you teach your mind to surrender. Every time you choose discipline, you teach your spirit to command. Over time, these choices become identity. The warrior I became was not the result of a single great effort, but of countless small sacrifices made without hesitation. The spirit becomes what it practices. If you practice comfort, you become soft. If you practice discipline, you become power. Simplicity also sharpens awareness. When the mind is cluttered with desire, attachment, and distraction, perception becomes dull. But when life is stripped to its essentials, the senses awaken. I could feel the movement of wind across the earth, hear the tension in a rival's breathing, sense the intention behind a gesture before a strike was even made. This clarity does not come from study alone, it rises from a mind unburdened. Simplicity clears the fog that blinds most men. The less you need, the more you see. The more you let go, the more control you gain over yourself and your destiny. There is a strength that appears ruthless from the outside, but within it is deep compassion for the self and the path. To deny the mind its cravings is not cruelty, it is guidance. Just as a blade must endure fire to become sharp, the spirit must endure discipline to become powerful. Avoiding hardship weakens the soul, embracing it transforms it. Many will search for shortcuts, for secrets, for tricks to escape the work, but there is no path to mastery that does not demand sacrifice. The question is not whether the path is difficult, it is whether you are willing to walk it. In this way, detachment does not make a warrior emotionless, it makes him free. Free from fear of loss, free from the weight of expectation, free from the chains of comfort. When you no longer cling to anything, you can commit fully to the moment before you, with no hesitation in your strike, no uncertainty in your decisions, no doubt in your purpose. This is the essence of inner power, the ability to act without being held back by attachment, to walk forward even when comfort calls you backward, to choose growth over ease again and again until it becomes your nature. And so, through sacrifice, simplicity, and the deliberate rejection of comfort, the spirit becomes disciplined, steady, and unstoppable, because nothing remains that can bargain with your will or weaken your resolve. There is a truth that many refuse to face. Growth is not born from comfort but from struggle. The mind becomes strong only when it is tested, and the spirit is tempered only when it is placed in the fire of adversity. On the path of mastery, pain is not an enemy but a silent teacher, one that speaks in moments of exhaustion, doubt, and difficulty. Those who run from discomfort remain weak, but those who learn to endure it transform themselves into something greater than circumstance. I did not choose hardship because I enjoyed suffering. I chose it because I understood that comfort would never forge the resolve needed to face the world without fear. There were days when my body felt heavy, when my muscles burned from endless training, when my breath was short and the ground beneath my feet felt unforgiving. Yet I continued. In those moments I watched my thoughts carefully. The weak mind seeks escape, invents excuses, and hides behind desire. The disciplined mind stays, breathes, and endures. Pain reveals which one you possess. When the body grows tired, the truth of your character emerges. If you break, you were never ready. If you endure, you reshape yourself into someone stronger than you were before. Pain strips away illusion. It reveals how much of your strength is real and how much is imagined. Many people believe themselves disciplined until discomfort arrives. They speak of ambition but avoid the price required to achieve it. They dream of greatness yet flee the slightest hardship. A warrior does not ask for the road to be easier, he asks to become stronger. When discomfort came, I did not curse it, I studied it. I listened to what it demanded of me. Instead of resisting, I stepped deeper into it, knowing that each challenge carved away weakness like a blade sharpening itself upon stone. The world often treats pain as something to escape, but escape creates dependency. The more a person avoids discomfort, the more fragile they become. Soon every inconvenience feels unbearable, every difficulty overwhelming. But the one who trains in discomfort becomes resilient. Hunger teaches patience. Fatigue trains endurance. Isolation strengthens focus. Failure develops humility. Each form of pain carries a lesson, and each lesson builds a foundation of strength invisible to those who have never endured the same trials. The spirit that has walked through storms stands unshaken when the next one arrives. There were times I confronted failure, moments when my strategies faltered, when my confidence wavered, when doubt pressed upon me like a weight. But even in those moments, I did not retreat. I examined my mistakes, stripped away pride, and allowed failure to carve wisdom where arrogance once stood. Pain deepens awareness. It forces the mind to observe rather than assume, to refine rather than repeat. The one who fears failure never improves, but the one who accepts it grows beyond limitation. Pain is the bridge between who you are and who you must become. Discomfort also strengthens presence. When the body aches and the mind is pressed, awareness sharpens. You learn to breathe through difficulty, to remain grounded while pressure surrounds you. In battle and training in life, this steadiness becomes your greatest weapon. Panic is born from resistance to pain. Calm arises from acceptance of it. By walking toward discomfort instead of away from it, I gained control over my reactions. What once would have broken me became nothing more than another step along the path. Many people misunderstand ruthlessness. They think it means cruelty toward others, but the true ruthlessness of a warrior is directed inward against weakness, hesitation, self-deception, and laziness. I did not spare myself from effort or challenge. I did not shield my spirit from difficulty. This discipline may appear harsh, but it is an act of respect for one's potential. To coddle oneself is to abandon one's destiny. To embrace hardship is to honor the strength that lies waiting beneath the surface. Endurance is not merely surviving discomfort, it is transforming within it. The warrior does not grit his teeth and wait for hardship to end. He grows through it, becoming someone who no longer fears the same struggle. What once felt impossible becomes ordinary. What once caused hesitation becomes another moment to breathe and continue. Over time, pain loses its power to intimidate, because you recognize it as a familiar companion on the road to mastery. And so I walked the path where struggle was constant and comfort was rare, not because I sought suffering, but because I understood that every moment of discomfort was shaping me into a being that weakness could no longer govern. In accepting pain as a necessary part of growth, the spirit moves beyond fear, beyond hesitation, beyond limit, until only strength remains.